Yeah, definitely. I was just discussing before, that first half of footy was some of the most enjoyable footy that I've played in years, and that's what we're really about here at the club, and that's what we've been seeing throughout training, the pre-season and everything. So take a lot of confidence out of that first half, and especially against a great team in the West Coast Eagles. They're vying for a top 4 spot this year, and we were able to deliver it on out in the G. And it's just a shame we couldn't do that for 4 quarters of footy, but that's every AFL team's goal, is to be able to produce that sort of stuff for 4 quarters consistently over 22 weeks of the year, and that's our aim.
So does it give you something to work with now? You can look at that game and see what went right in the first half. Have you been able to work out what went wrong in the second half?
Yeah, definitely. You weigh up the pros and cons of every game, and especially that first half of footy. That's what we're going to be wanting to produce every week now, and that's what we want the supporters to be seeing more often. And then we look at the second half, and we admit that was unacceptable, and we're just working towards building from that first half of footy. We've seen it in small snippets throughout this season so far. It's just about doing it more consistently over 4 quarters.
What is your review showing from the game? What was there such a difference between the first half and the second half?
It's hard to put it to specific things, but I'll just reiterate, that feeling that the boys had out there. We had a lot of pressure on, every time West Coast had the footy, there was so much pressure on them, and we were winning our own footy inside first, and that amounted to us, having a great half of footy, and that's what we want to work towards in the future.
This week, mate, as simple as saying it's a must-win.
Oh, look, we go into every game wanting to win the game, and this week's no different. No matter what team we come up against, this week it's GWS obviously, but we're going in with the same mindset, whoever we're up against, and wanting to win.
It's hard to say it's not different though, considering their form compared to pretty much the bulk of the other teams in the competition. That this is a really winnable game.
I'll go back to saying, we're not looking at who we're coming up against. It's whatever team's put in front of us, we're going to attack in the same way, and it just so happens to be GWS this week, and we're going to attack it like no one else, just because that's where we're heading as a footy club, and we're going to try and replicate what we did in the first half against West Coast, especially for 4 quarters this week against GWS.
Jeff, what have you done throughout the week to ensure morale remains high, so you don't let these losses get the better of you?
We do nothing differently. It's been well publicised. We were really happy with how we went about it in pre-season, and the way that we trained and the intensity and the standards that we sort of started to create. And we're just trying to replicate that every week and stick to the things that we want to be getting out of it, because we know as a club we're very confident we're heading in the right direction, so nothing needs to change.
Jack, Dermot Brereton put the club's leadership under scrutiny earlier in the week, talking about a spar incident after recovery or something. I'm sure you've heard the comments. Have you got anything to say about that?
I'm not exactly sure of the comments.
The comments were that apparently the Storm boys saw a few of the Melbourne boys laughing in the spar and that on the weekend after a recovery session, and they were heard to say that if that was at our club and the way that the Melbourne are travelling, that definitely wouldn't happen. We'd have leaders at our club that would pull these guys into line. So is that something that you take a personal affront to, having your leadership put under question like that?
Oh, look, I was personally there at the recovery session, and I saw none of that, so I don't see it as being an issue whatsoever, because we're really happy with how we recovered after the game, and it was all above board from our point of view, and that's the main thing.
It's not so much about the recovery though, it's more about the leadership of the club. I mean, with a young team, I think that's what Dermot is saying, that because you've got young leaders with a young team, that those guys really haven't got anyone to sort of follow as an example.
How were those comments made to be like that?
Oh, well, effectively by saying he then put it towards Cameron Smith to say that because Cameron's had so much experience as a captain, that he would pull those guys aside and say that that's not acceptable. And Dermot was questioning whether yourself or Jack Grimes would do that to the young guys now here at the club.
Yeah, but from my point of view, the recovery that we did, there was no unacceptable behaviour, so there was no need to pull anyone up.
So if guys were joking around and messing around after a serious loss to the club, you would pull them aside and say that we just don't want that around the club?
Oh, look, if that was to happen and we thought it was, it wasn't up to the way that we wanted to go about it and our standards, then sure, we'd pull it up, but we haven't seen any of that yet.
I was just going to say, is there anyone that you actually use as an example for a captain, anyone you speak to? Nick Maxwell said yesterday that there's ex-captains of the club that he sort of sits down with and talks to about leadership and the like. Is there anyone that you sort of use as a mentor?
No one in particular. We've got great support around the club, ranging from, who the leaders sort of work most closely with in Neil Craig, Jade Rawlings, and Josh Marnie, just to name a few, who are all, past players and coaches who have, seen great experiences. And there's different players that go out and seek different people for various reasons. But, I've spoken to a few people here and there, and they've been happy to give certain bits of advice along the way. But it's purely from an individual basis and whether they want to go do it or not.
Yeah, on the broader issue, how much of a burden is it being captain, particularly at a time like this?
Oh, no burden whatsoever. It's a great challenge in challenging times. That's where leaders really come to the fore, and Grimesy, myself, and the rest of the leadership group see this time as a great challenge to really progress as leaders and really enhance our qualities, and we feel as though it's really going to hold us in great stead for the future.
Mate, plenty of guys putting their hand up for selection this week, in particular Geordie McKenzie and Chris Dawes. How close are they to getting a Guernsey this week, do you reckon?
I'm personally not really aware of how close they are. I think Geordie McKenzie had a corky a couple of weeks ago that it probably will be around the mark this week. I'm not sure how Dawes progressing, but I've seen him running a few laps and he's looking pretty good. I'm not sure the exact date of when he'll be back, but yeah, there's plenty of guys putting their hands up, and that's great for the club.
And just on the positives of last week, I mean, Matt Jones, Dean Turlick, showed some really good form for more mature age players. I mean, that's got to be encouraging for you.
Exactly right. They are fantastic recruits that we've sort of found out of nowhere, and Jonesy in particular, coming from Box Hill and a few years ago, he's just playing some local footy, and now he's come out and really started to put some great performances out on the MCG where it's at its hardest, and Tells as well. There's other guys like Michael Evans and Luke Tapscott who have showed great form throughout the VFL and have come up and pass that performance into AFL level, which is great signs for sort of our young guys at the club.
Jack, in the rooms after the game on the weekend, you were asked to individually assess teammates' performances, rate each other's performances. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Not at all. So one player wasn't asked to ask another player how he thought he went?
No.
Jack, you spoke about coming through stronger at the end of this troubling period. Do you think that'll help the group as a whole, that you'll really come out better through these dark times? Yeah, definitely. There's plenty of quotes that get thrown around that you don't really appreciate success until you've gone through those hard times, and obviously no one wishes upon anyone to go through tough times, but we're seeing the times that we're in at the moment is a great challenge to really move forward, and as I said before, really improve some qualities from a leadership point of view to a lot of the young guys around the place. So we see it as a great challenge and going forward.
Jack, personally, your foot problem, how's that sort of affected you in your first couple of games back, and do you feel as though you're back on track after?
Yeah, so it was my third game back on the weekend from a foot injury that kept me out for 3 months, and obviously you never want to miss any part of pre-season. But unfortunately that happened for me, and I'm starting to find my feet and getting to that real peak fitness level that I've been aiming to get to for the past couple of weeks. So hopefully that'll show in my performance in the coming weeks.
Do you feel as though your speed sort of been off the mark, sort of been limited a little bit in those first couple of games, and you're getting back on track now?
I guess it's all a part of just finding that maximum match fitness again, and that's the really hard part. No matter how much running you do in the pre-season and how much work you're doing, it's really hard to replicate that match fitness, and the best time to test that is actually getting out there and doing it on game day. So that's what I've done the last couple of weeks, so hopefully I'll just keep improving from there.
And what advice do you have for Jimmy Toumpas, obviously coming in his first year and hasn't had too much of the ball, but what sort of advice do you give him as a mentor of him? Yeah, Tumpy, I couldn't question his attitude at all. He's come into the club and showing his great talent and working really hard with a head down, bum up sort of attitude. And look, it's one of those things. He's probably had high expectations on how he wanted to perform early on in his career, and it's always tough your first few games stepping up to the next level, but I think he's more than capable of doing that, and it'll turn for him in the near future.
What are the possible consequences of a loss this weekend, Chad?
Possible consequences? Oh, look, there's consequences of a loss any week, and this week's no different, but, we don't even read into that. We're going in there with full confidence that we can replicate what we did in the first half against West Coast, against GWS, and that'll hold us in good stead.